ThunderCats Roar was announced maybe a few days ago, and by the time this is out, maybe a week. Now we have a very strong reaction from the internet, really hating on the series.
Internet.
But
Sorry.
but Ryan and I, we have another thing in mind. We see another thing happening aside from an old series being revived into something that's a little hard to recognize. Are serialized stories going to die in cable TV very soon? That's a topic that we'd like to cover here in RF Talk for this episode. So, Rai, how's Japan so far?
Getting warmer.
That's good.
I'm afraid of summer now.
Do you get news like this normally? Like even if you're working in Japan, like about ThunderCats?
I've got Facebook, man.
Okay, you still get it. All right.
That's about it. It's like I have Facebook and very angry nerds for friends. So,
and we're nerds that get pretty angry ourselves. So let's hop to it. ThunderCats Roar. How do you feel about it?
I think it looks great. I mean, animation quality is nice. They're not ugly looking, although, as most people online have said, there's a very striking resemblance to their designs. They look a lot like a lot of other cartoons running right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where a lot of like the knee-jerk reactions are coming from. Like, yo, it looks a lot like Steven Universe. It looks a lot like Star versus the Forces of Evil. It looks a lot like Gumball.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's a long list.
I would argue that if you're not only taking an old IP, but you're also trying to emulate a style that seems to be getting popular, wouldn't that look lazy? Wouldn't that look kind of uninspired? That could be a problem, couldn't it?
Well, when you say it's getting popular, then really I think you would lean into it. If it's like an appealing style, then definitely you can get some people into it. You remember, there are periods where a lot of shows do look a certain way. I mean, there's a lot of like, what do you say, period? There was a certain way Warner Brothers cartoons looked during a certain decade. Mm-hmm. In the same way Hanna-Barbera or any Warner Brothers cartoons look. I did say Warner Brothers, rather. Cartoon Network looked a certain way during a certain period. So I guess this is just the look of the times right now.
Maybe.
I don't entirely believe it's unoriginal. It's just, I guess my feelings here are more related to how I wanted ThunderCats to be versus, like, I don't know. I guess it's an expectations versus reality thing where I expected. Well, yeah, it is, man. I mean,
yeah,
I definitely did not watch like the old ThunderCats. Actually, no. In relation to graphical style, there's a good example. ThunderCats of the 80s, compare it to He-Man, to Visionaries, to G.I. Joe. There was a very male-leaning cartoons at the time had this very macho man, very almost anime-esque like look to them.
Uh-huh.
Actually, some of them may have been Japanese produced, but I need to double check on that. But yeah, so expectations versus reality. Sorry, that was a tangent. I totally missed the original ThunderCats, but I really, really like the 2011 reboot.
Yes, the poor thing that didn't last more than a season.
Yeah, so
wait,
my feelings.
Okay, and you know what? Even in the 2011 reboot, there was a story that was kind of heroic. You have this guy Lionel. He doesn't have to be the perfect character. He doesn't have to be the 80s macho man. But when it gets down to business, when it's time to man up, you man up, and he's not dealing with Lionel. Even in the 2011 series, he's not dealing with small problems. What he's dealing with are things that a leader of a certain group should be worried about, like for his friends, for those who look up to him.
Yeah, that's the thing. Actually, that's one of the differences between the reboot now and the reboot in 2011 that I'm more affected by, I guess. I'm less bothered by the art style. I mean, I suppose the art style is a product of the creative direction they're going with in regards to presenting this show. So it looks to me like if 2011 reboot was a remake of the original Thundercats, this reboot seems to be going for, it's leaning harder into comedy, and I don't know, it feels like it's going to emulate the same style as a lot of the other current cartoons
Okay, like
that are standalones, one-shot episodes, or like half episodes, kind of like Star vs. the Forces of Evil, or say Teen Titans Go,
all right. Wait, like
instead of just one large. Oh, sure.
I think you're what you're trying to describe is a little too abstract now, because we're having a hard time articulating it. Like, maybe let's set an example. Like, old Thundercats back then, you would have your character, like Lionel. He would be, trying to protect the village or trying to do something heroic, like generally saving the day. You know, you know, like maybe the forces of Mumra is off to steal. Let's say is off to steal the children of a certain village, and he's going to try to prevent that. That's what he does. He's going to something that it's a grave situation, and you're going to go ahead and try to alleviate that or stop it, right? Now, what we speculate, keyword is speculate, that's going to happen with ThunderCats Roar is it's going to be more like the Thundercats are trying to go watch a movie, and maybe there's something that's keeping them from getting there. Like maybe their car broke down, or Lionel keeps sharing spoilers because he could see through the eye of Thundera, right?
I suppose in line with what you were going for, like the whole portrayal of a hero's journey and whatnot, I think shorter format cartoons, regardless of their tone, are able to communicate that. They may be goofier right now, but essentially we have heroic characters here that may not be doing classically heroic things, but this format should still be able to communicate like ideas like those. So I think that's perfectly fine. I think for what we've yet to see the show, but definitely it's still a vehicle that can deliver the characterizations that we kind of see in these characters, just with a more goofy bent to them.
Okay, so let me see if I'm understanding this right. You're saying that, it doesn't have to be these super serious stories for them to lay out a good message for the kids who are ideally going to be watching this to see. Like, you don't have to fight an army to tell them that you have to stand up for your beliefs or something, right? Like that's what you're going for, right?
Basically, if you look at shows like Adventure Time, Finn is kind of a goof, but somehow they were able to portray him as like strong, brave, and kind-hearted. Likewise, we do get, what was the guy's name? The guy in, was it Marco? The guy in like Star versus the Forces of Evil. Likewise, he's like a nice guy, knows karate, goes on adventures with Star. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole you can fit a lot of message in 15 minutes, in like 30 minutes, even as a one-off. It's definitely.
So you don't think that
I guess not a problem.
Yeah, so you don't think that forming a good narrative for kids to watch is going to be a problem, regardless of the genre or the content it's trying to produce, so long as it's formed well. That's what you're saying, right?
Well, what I'm saying is, even if it's just 30 minutes, it's still a narrative. Like, it may not carry over the next episode, but to be told there. And what I believe the studio is aiming for here is to take these same characters, their personalities, their quirks, and take them into unique situations that may not have applied to them in the original story.
Okay. Well, I guess what we can say, I could say to that is, all right. Even the first episode hasn't even aired yet, so we can't really judge it on what it's gonna show us quite yet, unless you have sight beyond sight and let you actually know what's going to be going on. But there's something
Yeah.
interesting happening, right? Or dreadful, depending on how you look at it. I would say dreadful personally.
Yeah. No. Here's
Yeah.
by dreadful. Actually, I think I know what you're talking about. Like I was getting into that. I was just about to get into that.
Uh-huh.
The way we see ThunderCats Roar right now is, it seems like the direction this is going to take is to take its story as one-off per episodes, like one-shot stories per episode, like we were talking about, what we were speculating about. Now, I don't think it's entirely baseless in this case, because if you watch the opening part of the show, which they teased, right? They actually went ahead and showed the entire plot of ThunderCats, like from Lion-O's like city blowing up to like Mum Ra showing up,
Yeah.
and then the entire supporting cast already there. So it seems to me like they're not interested in retelling the old story. They're just gonna throw everyone in there. It's like screw backstory, which tells me, they're just not going to delve into that plot so much.
So it's more of gonna be like a slice of life kind of show with ThunderCats Roar in particular, right?
That feels likely. That's not to say the characters will remain static. Like, Adventure Time did have like a plot moving forward every now and then, but would I call it loose? I don't know. I mean, some things in the plot did carry over. So, yeah, I feel like at best, it's going the Adventure Time route, where it's not going to follow a moment-to-moment story of an overarching plot in the same way the 2011 reboot did. Adventure Time can go on like, hey, Finn's on this random adventure on this episode. Next episode, he meets this character. Next episode, you kind of forget all of that. And the next episode, there's a character arc episode for that character explaining his backstory. And then that backstory bleeds into the world building of Adventure Time.
Yeah, okay.
You're kind of free to ignore it. Yeah, you're kind of free to ignore it. Unlike like ThunderCats, where you watch, or I don't know, something more serialized, like 2011 ThunderCats, or maybe The Last Airbender, where you miss one episode, you kind of lose track without the recap.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Like Airbender and ThunderCats 2011 were both about journeys. They had a continuity, like, and every episode was important for you to see. And what we do know,
well, not all episodes, but
yeah, there's
majority.
Gonna be maybe? There is gonna be that one-off every now and then, but mainly most of these episodes are important. And
yes,
and after one season, the reboot of ThunderCats left us with the biggest cliffhang ever. Correct. And what was the reason behind that?
I'm sighing very loudly. It got cancelled. That's what.
It got cancelled.
And oh my god,
it was a good series, man.
It was. It just didn't work out. It's now in cartoon series heaven, with like all the other cartoon series that got cut short in their prime.
And now we have a new cat to take care of. Well, not necessarily to take care of, but I don't know if I actually want this.
I'm probably gonna try it out, but yeah, no. Here's the thing though. So we're seeing, speaking of all the other great cartoons that have made it to cancellation heaven, we do have cartoons like, say, I'd like to say the He-Man reboot in the 2000s, but I'm trying to remember if that had a serialized story. I can't seem to remember. A more recent idea that comes to mind is Young Justice. Young Justice was cancelled as well.
Yes,
Um,
and then Teen Titans Go came along, and well, we know we don't like
yeah.
that.
So there was Teen Titans, and then there was Young Justice. Both got canceled in favor of the goofier Teen Titans Go. Yeah, there seems to be a trend in like Cartoon Network eliminating serialized storytelling in their cartoons in favor of something more bite-sized. And I suppose, yeah, the goofier bent, like, yeah,
It makes
heavier
it easier to
emphasis
digest.
on like comedy.
Yeah, it makes it easier to digest. You could like jump in at any point, and you could be surfing your cable television set, if you could call it that. If you still do that, if you still watch cable TV, huh? You know what? That does make me think of it, because you don't. Where do you watch your series? You don't actually watch it off cable anymore.
Yeah, actually, here's my thing. I back in the Philippines, we moved houses back in I don't know October 2016,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. When we moved, we decided not to apply for cable. Also, I did not have a working TV in my bedroom, so I kind of stopped watching regular TV since moving there back in 2016. And that only got worse when I moved here in Japan. I do
Okay.
not have a TV in Japan at all. Well, like back in the Philippines, we had TVs. We cut the cable connection, but we did have like Netflix. My arrangement in Japan is more or less the same, where except yeah, I have Netflix right now. I don't have a TV at all, so I haven't
Okay.
really had cable TV in a good 2 years, maybe.
So bottom line is like it's not really a thing for us to be
Uh,
watching serialized stuff.
well, bottom line is I watch my shows on my time, so I like the option of like having these shows available to me as soon as I have the time to watch them. And I could not say the same thing about cable TV before. Me and some friends were talking about anime we used to watch, and people were talking about how like absolutely legendary Ghost in the Shell standalone complex is, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of those people that completely missed the boat. I have not seen standalone complex at all, and I have a very good excuse for this.
Uh huh. What would that be?
I was probably in high school when Animax came out, which was around the time we got our first taste of standalone complex.
Mm-hmm.
And I would watch the shit out of Animax. It's just that standalone complex was at 11 p.m., my bedtime, just because of the time slot. I was not able to watch it. In the same, I mean, I'm pretty sure it had like other air times, but I may have been in school then because I totally remember the blocking of shows for anime. It's like the shonen anime. When I arrive, no, it would be like the moe shit. As soon as I make it home, it transitions into the shonen anime. A little toward the evening, it's like Great Teacher Onizuka or something. Around 9 or 10, it turns into Chobits, and then after that, it's like the adult leaning stuff like I don't know, Wolf's Rain and Ghost in the Shell and whatever. So like these shows I totally missed on just because I could not make the time slot.
All right. So let's just put the short version of that. Uh,
All right,
basically,
short version. Basically, I guess maybe serialized storytelling in cable TV is looking less and less appealing because it's a hassle to follow these things on a regular clip.
yeah, especially with how our time
That's
is now.
probably why, yeah. I mean, with how our time is right now, I feel like how shows right now reflect that. The stuff you see on cable TV are slowly like moving away from serialized storytelling, at least in cartoons. The CW still goes with serialized storytelling. Hello Arrow, hello Flash, hello Legends of Tomorrow. Um, but yeah, the cartoons seem to be moving away from that. There are still holdouts in Western animation that use serialized storytelling, but I can only currently recall maybe The Last Airbender, which is they haven't announced a new season for Last Airbender yet. Also,
Voltron, maybe.
and Voltron. Yes, Voltron. But Voltron is on Netflix. So that's the thing, actually. That's what I was thinking. Like,
Okay, so
serialized storytelling is dying on cable, but it seems to have found a new home in streaming television. Like, I believe Young Justice is being released on a streaming platform. I think that was the last thing I heard. Yeah. They were definitely reviving Young Justice, but I think the intent was to put it on a streaming platform.
So, I guess the conclusion we're arriving at this point is that Cartoon Network isn't looking to make these grand series anymore. They're more about you don't have to watch everything. Just watch this one episode, and if you like it, well, here's more. And I guess we could, and well, that's how it is. Like, people will browse through channels, and maybe they'll see what you're showing, and maybe you'll like it. So maybe that's what they're going for, especially with the generation these days for kids who find more appeal
Oh my
in that
god.
kind of style. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, we're old. I was like, oh, these generation of kids. I'm like, what the fuck am I hearing?
You're pushing
It's like,
30,
oh
man.
my god.
You're pushing 30. You
Pushing
gotta,
30, I'm already there.
You're there.
Like,
Anyway.
oh my god.
But so yeah,
Hurts
okay.
so much.
So maybe
Oh,
maybe Cartoon Network is trying to get rid of serialized storytelling, especially with how they've acted lately, and saying that poor toy sales is the reason why, but we don't really know. We are not entirely sure how Cartoon Network makes their money. Is it really just off merchandise?
understand the logic behind that. It's like, hey, we're canceling ThunderCats because bad. We're canceling Young Justice because toy sales were bad. We're canceling this season of Transformers because toy sales were bad. But oh, here's more ThunderCats. Well, no, fine. No, fine. Actually, that's perfectly fine. They repackage it, they put it out, hope it sells this time around. They do it a lot with like Transformers. I've lost track of what Transformers shows we're on right now. Like, I remember there was like, I don't know, the last thing I was on was Prime, Transformers Prime, and I lost track after that.
Okay.
Young Justice. I still miss it so
What?
much. I miss Young Justice so much.
I think I wouldn't fault Cartoon Network for trying to adjust their content towards how it might be better consumed by their target audience. But I kind of had to call them out for what were you thinking rebooting ThunderCats this way? Like, do you reboot an old IP without and not think about its actual fan base? Like, you got a problem.
What are you
there,
talking
right?
about? They do that all the time. I mean, I don't think they ask anyone about canceling Justice League Unlimited or Young Justice for that matter, or
Or what they did with Dead 10, or ThunderCats, or okay, or you're just gonna
Yeah,
get
they don't-
really sad really fast if you keep going this way.
I know. Like I said, they don't really ask. So, okay, fine. They're saying they're basing it on toy sales. Fair, okay? So, I guess cable TV does not make a lot of money. Or, I guess cartoons cost too much. I don't know. Like, but I do have a question about the ThunderCats reboot. Like, I keep asking myself, is this really the best IP to reboot? I mean, the original ThunderCats was like, yeah, like I said earlier, it's like it came out in the 80s. I totally missed out on it. I was too young to really catch it at the time, or I just didn't know it came out on TV. So that was what the 80s were at this point. What 90 several years ago, several decades ago. So they're marketing this new iteration of ThunderCats to a generation that has never heard of them. Let's put it this way. Thundercats is no Transformers. It's no.
I would say
Yeah,
I'd
it's
actually
not.
say it's a Western classic.
You'd say it's a Western classic, but from the time Thundercats vanished, several generations of children came up. Basically, there were children born in the 90s that may have never heard of Thundercats. There are children in the 2000s that have not heard of
Such as you for the
Thundercats, and now there are children born in the tens that have definitely not heard of Thundercats. In the same way, it's not as omnipresent a franchise as, say, like I said, Transformers, or name some other ancient franchise, GI Joe. I don't know how big a property GI Joe is anymore, apart from being revived by the movies.
Still ongoing, and there's still a movie coming up. But anyway, we're kind of pushing our time here, and I think we've kind of exhausted our thoughts with what we know and what we can see with ThunderCats Roar at the moment, which is, I guess that means that's the end of our cast, unless there's
Can I
any final thoughts?
Yeah, can I put one last thing in?
Okay, go.
So, currently, Thundercats Roar does look well animated, and I will probably give it a try, but if it's not for me, it's not for me, Some people just need to learn and say, it's not my cup of tea, and let it go. Let's just stop hating on it for now. I mean, a lot of people worked hard on making it, and it's by no means ass ugly. That promo video showed was very well animated. It showed a lot of passion, a lot of time and effort went into making that thing. So I can't hate the studio on that.
Okay, fair enough. But I would stick to what I said. Like, Cartoon Network, what were you thinking? Like, doing that of all things. Then again, they don't really.
Well,
ask.
I'm probably gonna hate. I'm probably gonna hate on Cartoon Network, but I'm not gonna hate on the studio. Please stop sending them death threats.
Yeah, that probably not productive. It's probably not productive. But let's try to keep a proper conversation going. For those of you who are interested in getting a word in, why don't you just leave a comment, or maybe just a like if you made it all the way here to the end. Anyway, that is RF Talk for now. We'll hopefully have a new episode soon because we're trying to do this shorter format thing. Anyway, I'm Alan and that's Rai. So thank you for coming around. And hopefully soon we'll have we'll have another episode up. Right. Thanks again, guys. We love you and good night.